Good morning to fellow sprouters or whatever time of day it is. So I am feeling very excited to be offering to you some tips in the process of sprouting. Sprouting is just such a fabulous process on many levels because we really get to bring the outside in. We get to see nature and growing bit by bit, step by step, and it really can deepen an appreciation for what goes on in the natural world that typically goes on underneath the ground, but we get to see above the ground and marvel at the wonder of growth. So the benefits of sprouting really include the fact that sprouts, because they're growing, they have the enzymes right then and there that are helping them to go into their plants. So we get much more readily accessible nutrients from those enzymes. They're also increased vitamin B, vitamin C. The fiber is absolutely fabulous to help us digest and work with our body systems. So very often, you've heard maybe that there's a concern about E. coli when you buy purchased sprouts. So when you buy sprouts, and I recommend you buying them from that are designed to sprout, such as these are, as you can tell, they're called sprouts. So they're designed for that because they've been really looked after to make sure the chances of E. coli or salmonella are reduced. As well as we grow them at home, we have much more control over cleanliness, as well as control over the quality of the water, control over the temperature, which I'll talk about in a moment. So there really is no reason to not begin sprouting. What you need is a jar. So these are mason jars, and you can get them at a grocery store. And I'll start with the unusual tops. I had 4 jars I had wanted to do. I only had 2 tops. So really what I took, as you can tell, is a netting from a red potato bag. You recognize these nettings perhaps for onions as well too. And why do we need netting and not just a sealed top? The reason we need that is because sprouts are living and they breathe. So if we put a sealed top in there, they're not necessarily going to get the right amount of oxygen that would be best for them. So for this, I actually took a sponge that was covered. It was a new sponge. It was covered in this outside mesh. And I said, oh, so I cut the end off of it, just peeled it off of the sponge. And as you can tell, there's a nice netting right here. So the traditional ones are what you see here. These are actually, I'll pop off, these are actually purchased from Amazon. And I bought stainless steel, right? And they have a wire mesh right in it. They do make them in plastic as well too. And notice the size of these, of the mesh. So this size is wonderful for the smaller sprouts like the salad seed sprout or alfalfa sprouts, which these are. Right, so I was trying to see if there were any others. So those are really, great tops that you can purchase. Those, I believe, for 2 of them were maybe about $10. And then this I've had, and this I got from a garden supply house. And what's wonderful about this is you can grow 2 stacks. So if you take a look at the top stack right there, see, and in here I have some garbanzo beans and I have the mung beans, and there is a divider that you can see. And it's got another layer if I chose to grow another layer. And the water, when we rinse them, which I'll show in a minute, will go right through. And then I have a top through which I can pour the water through, and then it will sink down to this bottom. And then I can just rinse it. So sprouts do not need to be in direct light. Actually, it is much better for them not to be in direct light. So what I might do, I have mine tucked over in the corner here where it's a little bit darker. Sometimes I even put them in a cabinet. But what you can do is also take a towel and cover over the top of them. This is a light towel. I have a darker towel that I would use to prevent some of the light from going in. So when you get the sprouts, all you have to do is put them in the jar. We'll take this one, put them in the jar, and they'll be there, and you soak them. The smaller sprouts, such as this, which is alfalfa, or the solid sprouts, take typically about 4 hours to soak. The larger sprouts will take maybe about, they say, 8 hours. At the end, I'm going to give you a website that will show you, that has a great chart on it so you can determine. And it even mentions that you can sprout pumpkin seeds. So there's some really cool things to experiment with. So you soak them, and then after the soaking time, you're going to drain the water off. And then what you'll do is either you can use your spray nozzle like this, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. You can turn it on. And just lightly go through, spray through the top. It doesn't have to be very much, but you really want to make sure that the water is enough to cover them. And then gently pour the water out. All right, I found over time that they are a little bit hardy, but I certainly don't want to be, pounding them. And then, jiggle it a little bit. And as I'm doing this, if you take a look, I am trying to get them on the edge. And when I put them down, putting them with the edge down, and I have a baking rack, again, trying to think about what might be useful or people might have at home. So this is a cookie rack, and I have a towel in the back so that the sprouts are at a slight angle. So any excess water can drip on down. Since they are living, we can't submerge them in water because they will die. So we do have to rinse them, give them the moisture they need to continue growing, but at the same time, we don't want to keep them totally under the water. I've also done this before too, so if you have a bowl, you can certainly take the jar and rest it in the bowl, and this even makes a little bit of a higher angle, and then you can collect the water. So there you go, that's the growing. So let me show you a couple of what I have. These long beans, I will actually, these will be the ones that I'll be harvesting. This is their third day, separate from the soaking. And we saw some garbanzo beans in here. Additionally, these alfalfa sprouts, they are the same amount of time, third day, right? And I will get these probably maybe later tonight, or maybe I will harvest them a bit later on today. So the ideal way to harvest, okay, is to take a towel. I'm actually going to take this towel and lay it out. And you don't have to do this. It's just if they're refrigerated and they have a lot of moisture in them, then it's not going to be that helpful. So I'm going to do a nice little rinse of these before there we go. Great. And I'll rinse them a second time before I lay them out. Because they say to actually, here I am, they say to lay them out for 30 minutes on this towel, but I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do. So again, if you do have a little bit of strainer, maybe you just see if there's any extra water coming out. Okay. And then you can put them on the towel. You might have just some plain shells left over, the outer casing. It's just so fascinating that that outer casing preserve them, and they know how to grow on through, right? So the temperature, while these are just resting for a moment, they say to keep these here for 30 minutes. So the temperature really should not be that warm. I mean, a house temperature is fine. Really what will breed or allow the E. coli to come into play, first of all, is poor cleanliness, but also bacteria can just grow when there's a lot of warmth. So make sure your house is cool. It's a fine temperature, but don't think that they have to have any particular warmth. They'll just do it on their own. So after this, here we go. What I would do is I would let these rest for 30 minutes. And then if possible, again, this is the premier treatment for your sprouts so they don't dry out. I've taken a little piece of linen, and then I would put them, I'll do this earlier, I would put them in the container. See, I have a glass container, right? I'm just resting them in here. And then make like a little cocoon for them, cover it up, right? Put the top on, yes, put the top on, and then they're ready to go in the refrigerator. So you have batch number 1 of sprouts all ready to go. Again, if you don't do this, at least if you can just drain them a little bit to make sure this towel does have a fair amount of moisture on it. So lastly, have fun, really. I think that the important things to remember, I will show you, are really, I'll just pull this up. Keep your jars clean, right? Soak according to the directions, rinse them, and then if you can give them the Premier treatment at the end, it works really well. So here is the website that I highly recommend. This is where it's got a beautiful chart that will show you how long to soak and some of the varieties that you can use. Please do not use kidney beans. They have a toxin, and quinoa. At one time I did soak quinoa, use quinoa, but it does have a substance in it that might cause an allergic reaction to some people. So go ahead, sprout away, enjoy it with the family. It's such a beautiful thing to have a easy touchstone and just check in on a daily basis, get excited. You can even see the change over a day. So well wishes, and certainly take care. Thank you.